It is!
Let's start off by recapping what we've looked at so far in our study of Laban. So on Monday, we covered that if words were written about us, how would they describe us? And we looked at occurrences in the Bible where we were introduced to individuals, and how they were first described told us a great deal about their character. And Laban, he was a man who loved his stuff. And that's what we're told about him. And that's what we think of his character when we think of this man. And we need to make sure that what is known about us is that we have a godly character. And that people will know us and talk about us as kind and loving and thoughtful people. Then on Tuesday, we looked at decision making and how we need to not rush and make decisions quickly. That's when we make poor decisions, and it's important to always go to God in prayer to guide our decisions. It doesn't matter the circumstance, we can always approach God in prayer. And that is especially true when we make decisions in our lives. And we looked at a number of examples, both good and bad examples of decision making. And we don't ever read of Laban consulting God before making decisions. Now for this morning, we're going to jump ahead in time to when Jacob is fleeing unto Laban. And Jacob, he has to flee because he knows Esau, his brother, will kill him if he finds him for stealing his blessing. So Jacob's on the run, and he's told to go unto Laban. He has no one else to turn to but this man. And Jacob, when he goes unto Laban, he meets his daughter, Rachel, who's Laban's younger daughter, and she is beautiful. And he falls in love and he wants to marry her. So let's open our Bibles and turn to Genesis 29 and start reading at verses 15 to 20. So Genesis 29 and verses 15 to 20. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel. And he said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I should give her to thee, than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. And they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love that he had unto her. So Jacob and Laban here make a covenant where Jacob would work for 7 years and then be given Rachel to be his wife. And Laban promises to do that, it says in verse 19. And Jacob works for those 7 years, and they fly by because he loves her. And after those 7 years were up, Laban threw a wedding feast. But he tricked Jacob and gave him Leah instead. And she was the elder sister of Rachel. Verse 22 says, And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to the pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her unto him. And now skip down to verse 25 and read verse 25 to 27. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said unto Laban, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, It must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for thy service, which thou shalt serve me yet another 7 years. So what happens here? Well, Laban goes back on his word. He doesn't fulfill his promise that he made with Jacob. He lies to him and he deceives him. And out of this, he gets Jacob for another 7 years of work. Hopefully, we all know that it's wrong to deceive people and to lie to people. But what verses do we know of in the Bible that talk about covenants? And specifically, how does God feel about them? Well, let's look at a few of them to know just how wrong Laban was in doing this. So let's turn over to Genesis chapter 9. And Genesis chapter 9 is the story of Noah. In Genesis 9, verses 8 to 17. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I will establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of fowl and of cattle and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark and every beast of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. And I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, and that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall no more become a flood and destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So this is God's promise to not only Noah and his sons, but also to us, that he will never flood the earth again. And has he? No, he hasn't. He's kept that promise. Even though we are in times that are as bad, if not worse, than before the flood. But God still keeps his promise that he made to Noah to not destroy the earth. There's another one, we're not going to turn there, but if you want to write this down, it's 1 Kings 8, verses 20 to 25. 1 Kings 8, verses 20 to 25. And this is Solomon when he builds the temple for God. He realizes here the amazing covenant that God made with David his father. And he marvels at how God keeps his word and fulfills all that he said to David. And Solomon praises God for it. In Hebrews 7, verses 22, another one if you want to write it down, we're not going to turn there, but Hebrews 7, verse 22, and that's with Jesus. And with Jesus, we get a new covenant with God, where we get forgiveness of our sins. This is the greatest covenant God could give us, is to be able to approach him and be forgiven of our sins. And this is all possible because God made a covenant through his Son. How amazing is that? Let's turn over to Numbers 30, verses 1 and 2. And we'll read of another instance of how important covenants are to God. So Numbers 30, verses 1 and 2. And it says, And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. If a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. So if we make a vow unto God, like getting baptized maybe, because baptism is a vow unto God. So we must keep that. That's a covenant unto God when we get baptized. It's not an option to keep it, but it binds us to God when we make that covenant to him. And that's what Moses is saying in these verses. When you make a vow to God, that's a vow or a covenant which cannot be broken. So we know from these verses that God takes his promises and his covenants very seriously, and so should we. Our word is our bond. When we say we're going to do things, we need to do them. So let's read of another one, and that's in Ecclesiastes 5. So it goes Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. So Ecclesiastes chapter 5. And we're going to read verses 4 to 6. It says, When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it. For he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the work of thine hands? So when we make a vow or we make a covenant, it must be kept. It's better to not promise at all than to break our promise before God. We need to be people of our word. So that's extremely important. So the lesson we can take away from this morning, and we can practice for the rest of our day and week, is to do what we say. When we tell our parents or our teachers that we will do something, we need to make sure we do it. Unlike Laban, who, because he couldn't keep his word, he was somebody who couldn't be trusted. We don't want to be that type of person. So let's try to work on keeping covenants and do as we say. So thanks for listening this morning, and I hope you have a great day at school. And tomorrow, for the last devotion this week on Laban, we will be considering deception and trying to deceive others and why we shouldn't do that. So I hope you have a great day.